From Africa, out of the 47 countries that have been listed by the Immigration Office in the document, Somalia tops the list with more than 4,000 immigrants ready to face deportation from the United States. Citizens belonging to Mauritania, Nigeria, Ghana, Guinea, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Senegal, Liberia, and Sierra Leone.
Hey guys, how's it going? Whew, it's really hot and there's no electricity. For some reason, there's a bar that is playing some music, so I'm guessing they're using a generator because the amount of noise. Anyway, guys, I'm actually in the balcony because it's dark inside and I'm waiting. It's 5 p.m. Okay, I'm waiting for it to be like 7 p.m. ish so that I can turn on the generator. But anyway, let me talk about this topic. You guys saw the title. A lot of immigrants in the US have been deported to their home countries. And I wanted to mention that here because I watched a couple of videos of people crying and people, family being separated. Whether the kids stay in the US and then the parents move back to the home country and so forth. There's a lot going on in America at this point in time. I actually have somebody who asked me if I'm remaining in Cameroon because I was also deported, quote unquote. Guys, I've been in Cameroon forever. I've been in Cameroon, okay? I came here July. So if I had to be deported, it would have been February when we had a new president, right? But I mean, yeah, I think it was as of February, even though he took office in January. But anyway, that being said, let me talk about this topic. I watched a video. I don't know when the video was posted, but the video was a young African woman crying about going back to Africa and without achieving anything. And I wanted to talk about this.
I'm a disappointment to my late dad. I feel like I'm a disappointment to my mom because I have not achieved anything and I don't even know where to start from if I go back home. You guys know when we watch an Hollywood movie, so when we go to abroad 1 year after, the person will make it and be rich. That is not the way it is. Abroad is very hard. In UK or in Canada or anything.
So you guys watched the video, right? I watched the video and OMG, it just reminded me how much pressure, how much expectations our African families have on us and how brainwashed. And I want to say brainwashed. Guys, I'm sorry if you can if you can hear the noise. I'm outside in the balcony. The street is right there. So I'm sorry if you can hear anything, okay? But I feel like many of us, me included, as much as you guys can probably look at me and be like, girl, you good, okay? You good. You don't got no problem, blah, 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 blah. Guys, I was a victim too, And I feel like many of us who immigrated to a new country for better opportunity, for a better life, whenever we have to return back home, we always have that dilemma, right? Like many of us, many of the people that I know, many Africans that I know, let me talk about Africans, right? Many Africans that I know, whether they're from Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, Senegal, Nigeria, all of us, right, want to go back to Africa. One of the main reason, I want to say reason number one why people don't want to return back, from the people that I have encountered, one of the main reasons they don't want to return back is really because of the expectation, the high expectations the family, our environment here in Africa have on us, right? Because you cannot come from abroad and come back to Africa and be broke. The way people are going to be, laughing at you, the way they will treat you, the way they will talk, badly about you and all of these things. And I remember, I think I told you guys the story once upon a time where I had a cousin. Still have, he's still alive. I have a cousin, a man, right? He's older than me, but I remember he had asked me for some money, right? He wanted money for whatever. And I had given him, I think it was at the time, I had given him 25,000 just because that's all I got, right? Because I was helping many people at the time and I was living in America full time, not like today, right? That I'm living, partly in Cameroon, partly in America. And I remember at that time, I had exhausted all my savings because if there's anything going on back home, you have to help. I had friends who were in difficult situations. And I remember this cousin of mine asked me for money. And all I could give him was 25,000. And guys, you can even imagine the way he said, And that wasn't the only person, by the way. Like many people act that way. The way he said, "Oh, thank you so much, but are you gonna send another money again?" The way he received my money, the money that I worked for, guys, and I sent him 25,000 francs CFA, and he looked at me and asked me if there was another part that was coming after. Like, okay, this is just, like pocket change. Is there, the real money, right? Talking about maybe a couple of 100,000. Is the real money really coming after just 25,000? I don't even know what to say. The way he belittled what I sent him completely changed the way I started looking at Cameroon, the way I started looking at my peers, my relatives, and how much I was giving to people. And I got to the point where I wasn't giving them money anymore. You want money? I will give you a job. You want, I don't know, you want food? I will tell you, hey, I have a farm here. You can farm, you can grow your own food, blah, 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 blah. And it got to the point where people thought, I remember there were a lot of, talk in the family. I mean, not anyway, couple of family members, whatever, not all of them, right? Not generally. But I remember many of them started talking about, I'm sure over there she's suffering. Maybe she's not even well off. Maybe she hasn't even graduated from school. She's probably struggling. That's why she's not helping anymore, blah, 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 blah. And when I made the decision to eventually move back to Cameroon back in 2020, I remember a lot of talk, right? Every time my aunties, my uncles would stop by my place, they would always ask me, "Are you still here?" They would go, like, they would see my parents, right? And they would be like, "Oh, she's still here." Like, people actually thought that I was probably deported. They thought, what is wrong with you? Why would you come back to Africa when you live in America? And it didn't make sense for many people. Now, that being said, when I watched the lady's video, right, the first thing that came into my mind is how traumatized it is for us to work, I mean, to go abroad, work. Like, oh, guys, I can't even tell you. Like, I know my story is not the worst story because I actually feel privileged to have lived the life that I lived in the US, having the opportunity to go to school, even though I was working three jobs, right, when I was going to school in university. But I see it as a privilege because I know many people who didn't even have the means to go to college, right? They didn't even have family to back them up, right, to support them financially. And they couldn't go to college. College in America is really expensive. It's really, really, really expensive. And if you don't have family that can actually afford it, it means that you have to work for it. But most of the time, if you work for it, then you don't have time to go to school. So I can relate to a certain extent because I saw people around me that were struggling. And when the conversation always came up about, would you go back to Africa? Would you go back to Cameroon? Would you go back home? All of them were like, heck to the no. And I was almost the only one who said, yes, I would go back to Cameroon because I wanted to make a change. I wanted to do something of my life, right? Now, would I have made the return back to Africa if I did not achieve anything? I don't think so. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be real with you guys. And I don't think I was going to come back. Like, I watched that girl crying on the video and I thought to myself, like, what is success, right? Like, would you come back to Africa? Would you come back home without achieving anything? I don't think I would have come back. I think when you don't have money back home, when you don't have money in Africa, it shows that you don't have money. The struggle is real. The struggle is real, guys. In America, whether you are educated or not, you can still get a job at a restaurant. You can wash dishes. You can clean floors. You can work in retirement homes and all of these things. And you can get by, if that makes sense. You can still have a little bitty job or two, three jobs and be able to sustain a certain lifestyle and also have fun at the same time. Maybe not have fun to the extent of having luxury vacations, going on trips, but at least you should be able to live a decent life, eat the food you want to eat, pick up shifts where you work, right? In Cameroon, for example, if you don't have, I mean, it's just hard. I don't even know how else to explain it. If you don't have the means here, it is hard. And for the longest time, I used to ask myself, and I still ask myself the question, how do people survive here? Because I'm looking at how I'm converting the currency, right? I'm converting the dollar into franc CFA and what I'm spending on the regular basis. And I'm like, how do people do it? It is expensive for me, and I can't even imagine people who live maybe in Senegal or Cote d'Ivoire, because I heard those countries as even more expensive than Cameroon. I cannot even imagine. It is expensive. It is expensive for me, who comes with that, like dollar currency. And I have a business here in Cameroon. It's still expensive for me to live in Cameroon and sustain the lifestyle that I want to sustain. Um, yeah, I think when you're older, right? I'm already in my 30s. I think when you're older, you see life differently. You want comfort. That's what I'm saying. I don't think I would have come back, returned to Cameroon, um, if I wasn't going to have the comfort that I wanted to have. And if in America, for example, I could achieve that comfort level, right? I don't think I would have come back to Cameroon if my life was going to be worse. You see what I mean? Like right now, I don't think my life is better. I think when it comes to the ecosystem, when it comes to, eating good food, organic food, fruits, bunch of fruits and vegetable, the ambience, the people, the weather, I think it's better, right? But when it comes to the economical structure or the opportunities, let's talk about opportunities, jobs, businesses. I think America is way better. And I think all of us know it, okay? Compared to Africa. I think it's harder here to have a business and to succeed with that business than to have a business in America and succeed in the business. Um, I don't know. I was really thinking about that video, and I was thinking, would I have come back? Because I had the same pressure that the girl had. For a long time I wanted to come back to Cameroon, but the reason why I never made the return back to Africa is really because financially it did not make sense for me, because I knew I was eventually going to come back and maybe look for a job here in Cameroon. And guys, I wasn't going to go through it. Looking for a job here, it's already hard for Cameroonians living in Cameroon. And I just felt like I didn't want to get into, I don't know, I just didn't want to struggle, if that makes sense. So, and I had to work hard and I had to create businesses and I had to get to a financial place where I could now afford coming back to Cameroon. And I understand that video. I understand the cries of that lady, right? Where you feel like you are a failure if you're going back to Africa and you don't have enough. The thing that many Africans or many people who don't live abroad, who don't live in those westernized countries don't know is that we live paycheck to paycheck. Okay, many of us, as much as you can make good money, but you also spending good money. Okay, like bills, guys, like America is a different ball game. I don't know if you guys live in, all the time when I compare my bills with my siblings, for example, they live in France, and I always feel like, why is it that like apartments are so cheap, right? And I call it cheap, right? I don't think there would be like, oh, it's cheap to be, renting a place in France, but I would think it's cheap because I'm looking at the prices and I'm comparing with what America is offering, and I feel like it's huge, it's enormous. And the same thing with like car payments, housing, if you get a mortgage and all of this, like it's just, for me, it's more expensive. That's what I'm saying. I lived in America for the longest time, living on paycheck to paycheck basis, meaning that if I don't work for 1 month, I wouldn't have money to pay rent and and utilities and living expenses basically for the next month. So I had to work. Vacation was a luxury for a long time. Vacation was a luxury. I couldn't just be like, oh, let me go vacation for 1 month. No, we would do like 1 week vacation, 5 days vacation, because that was enough, right? So for the longest time, I used to be in that position, and there was no way I was going to be returning back to Africa, not because I wanted to save face, right, and show my people that I have succeeded, but because of me, because I just wanted to live comfortably here in Africa. And I think for all of us who are Africans, many of us who are getting deported back to Africa, many of us who are planning to return back to Africa, I think you have to make a choice, right? And I always say this thing, because I want to live. What the heck is that noise? Oh my God. Because I want to live my life on a specific scale, right? I have high standards when it comes to how I want to live my life. I cannot afford not to work. And I think that's what you have to figure out for yourself, right? Like as you're coming back to Africa, you're planning to come back, or maybe you're getting deported. You have to be okay. Like there are people that I know who don't care. Like they're here in Cameroon, they don't care having a car. They don't have to live in a house, for example. They just have the little bitty, space, and then they're good. They don't have to go to luxury places here in Douala. They can just go to the bar, right? Get a beer, drink with their friends, and then, like that life. And I know people who are comfortable living that life. And I know to a certain extent that I'm not. Let me talk about the real truth here. I'm not comfortable living that type of life. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to, oh my God, phone call after phone calls. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to go to good restaurants, sit down and eat delicious food, no matter the price. I want to be able to go on vacation to Dominican Republic like I went back in 2022. I want to be able to visit my friends, my family for months, for weeks at a time without thinking about, oh, do I have enough money? I know I have set high standards for myself, not my family, not people here in Africa. Like nobody looked at me and say, oh, what is she doing? Like, she doesn't have enough for this and that. I have set the high standards for myself. And I think many people don't have to be in my shoes, right? The reason why I keep on working and working and working is really because I want to live on that level, right? Now, that being said, as you're coming back to Africa, don't be comparing, your life to another person's life. You may not be like me. You may be somebody simpler. You may be somebody who just need, a house to live in, and then whether you have a car, it doesn't matter. You don't have to live in a, luxury apartment, luxury house, or whatever. The amount of money that I spend on internet alone on a monthly basis in order to provide those videos to you is crazy. I spend a lot of money. Okay, I spend a lot of money on internet here in Cameroon, and I know many people who will not mind. And I think if you are okay with the idea of coming back and looking for a job, right, that would be amazing for you, right? For me, I knew I just could not. It was actually harder for me to work for American companies, let alone coming back to Africa and working for Cameroonian companies. Like I know, your sister, guys. I'm not a good employee. Let me put it this way: I am a good employee when it comes to doing my job right. I'm not a good employee when it comes to taking orders. Okay, because I think somehow I've always been in the position, and I've been shaped into that position of being a leader. And so I wasn't, I'm not even gonna lie, I've never been that much of a good employee. And that's why maybe entrepreneurship was calling my name left and right. And entrepreneurship is still hard, okay? It's not easy. It is still hard. And I'm still maneuvering through it every single year. So as many people unfortunately are getting deported, this video is not going to make you feel better, but somehow maybe you can find peace in coming back and starting from scratch, right? And I mean, I know people listen to naysayers and haters, right? But you have to get to the point where you say, I don't care. Those people don't even care about you like that, right? I mean, they will say things about you because them themselves, they haven't figured out their own life, right? They're also uncomfortable and they're just projecting whatever, their insecurities are onto you. So don't be ashamed if you feel like you've worked for just many years and you haven't achieved this and that. I understand. And I think the people who live in those countries, who have migrated to those countries, we as a whole, we understand because it's not easy. I lived in America since 2007. 2007, I just made the move back in 2020. I started investing in my first business in 2017, so 10 years after I moved to America. That's when I invested in my first business, right here in Africa. So it takes time. It takes time. The dream, the American dream, or the French dream, or the German dream that all of us have of going abroad and succeeding and coming back 2 years later with like millions in the bank. Many of us don't live that dream, guys. We don't. And hopefully you're going to find some peace, right, in coming back home, whether you are deported or whether you are just deciding to come back. And don't set a high standard for yourself, but if you do, make sure you work for it because nobody's going to work for it. It's still going to be hard, right? It's still going to be hard. Started my first business here in Cameroon in 2017. So it's been what, 8 years or so, and it's still hard. It doesn't get easier. It's still hard. Okay, you get stronger, but the business landscape, right, doesn't get easier. You get stronger. So I hope you guys can find peace somehow. And if you have high expectation of how you want to live your life, work for it and don't listen to naysayers. I probably have a lot more to say, but guys, no, I haven't been deported. Okay, I actually need to go back to America and see what's going on there. But for the time being, let me enjoy Cameroon. Guys, I need to make a phone call real quick. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'm here with you even though my life has been crazy lately. If you guys have watched my vlogs, then you know what's going on. It's just been crazy. So I love you guys. Thank you for watching.